My name is Aldra Paletta, and which you did pronounce it correctly, George. So congratulations. Um, and I'm the peer-based services professional for, I am one of the peer-based services professionals for Diversibility Incorporated. And we're going to go into like what our organization is and what we do. But I share my job responsibilities with Isaac, who will introduce himself in a second. And are doing our presentation on steps to self-advocacy. In a very odd way, our presentation also fits into the next portion that comes after this, which is the group presentations by self-advocacy groups. So we're kind of doing a 2-for-1 here. But I'm going to shift it over to Isaac so he can introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isaac Zwinger-Nathanson, and I am the second peer-based service professional. And I am grateful to be here and learning from you all.
Yes, that's been a lot of very enlightening information. So the mission of Diversibility Incorporated. So we are a youth-driven nonprofit organization. We empower youth and young adults who have disabilities on their journeys to independence through peer-based programs and services. So our organization, the people who provide the services are youth and young adults who have disabilities who have been through our programs. We provide programs that teach important skills like advocacy, leadership, goal setting, and learning to be more independent. We offer peer-based training, navigation, and support services. It's provided throughout Arizona, so we're all over Arizona. By and for youth and young adults, who have a variety of disabilities and other diversities. We run peer-led workshops at conferences, schools, and the communities. So for example, we just wrapped up at 4 schools doing our workshops in the schools over the last several months. And Isaac will be starting at another place in July. So we do a lot of different things, and we're going to explain more of that later on. But first, Isaac's going to talk about our youth leadership, and I can't talk. Isaac, please stop me.
So under the Arizona Youth Leadership and Engagement Initiative, AZLEI, Diversibility Incorporated provides leadership and engagement opportunities for youth and young adults ages 14 to 26. Many youth and young adults first attend Arizona Youth Leadership Forum, AZYLF, which focuses on self-discovery, leadership development, career exploration, effective advocacy, and empowerment. Following AZYLF, youth have opportunities to embrace their leadership and engagement, including training and services as a peer facilitator and leaders. We also provide programs in schools and the community, including person-centered plan and skills to pay the bills, work readiness training.
So that's very foundational as to what we do. I will be talking more about the Youth Leadership Forum towards the end, but we actually have some people who have done our Youth Leadership Forum on this call kind of scattered about. So hi guys. But for this workshop, it is Steps to Self-Advocacy is an interactive workshop with videos, discussion, and activities where we will learn about self-advocacy and what it is and what it looks like, practice your self-advocacy skills, and engage in self-advocacy opportunities and ways to get involved.
Independence and support. Self-advocacy skills help us to live more independently. Some things to remember about independence. Living independently does not mean that you have to do everything by yourself. It means making your own choices and making your own choices and decisions to a greater extent possible. You have support systems which may change over time. We all need other support, and we all provide support in return. So it's really important. None of us do anything really by themselves. You may, living on your own doesn't mean, like we said, it doesn't mean that you're doing it by yourself. I know when I first wanted to move out, I worked with my parents. I worked with people that I was going to be roommates with. I worked with the leasing office at the apartments that I was looking into. I worked with people who have had apartments before who are a little older than me. I've worked with people, at my bank and at different and financial places to see if I needed if I had enough in savings and different things. So being independent doesn't mean that you take away those supports. Being independent means that you're utilizing those supports, and the final decision is what you decide. And so independence is without interdependence, which means that you can be independent, but you still will need your supports and your cheering squad as well.
Correct. And I think, self-advocacy has already been mentioned. Well, I mean, this is a self-advocacy conference, so it's very foundational and very applicable to what we've already been talking about. And independence and support does tie in with self-advocacy. And Isaac already gave his examples, and I have very similar examples, but we'll actually be able to explore the hows and whys of how you can get to the point where Isaac mentioned, because it does not happen overnight. So the independent living philosophy independent living philosophy considers disability a natural part of life and believes that independence is not measured by the number of tasks you can perform, but by the quality of your life. Independence is the control you have over your own life, regardless of the levels of support you may have. People who have disabilities have the right to equal opportunity and access as they pursue a lifestyle choice in an integrated community. And I'm sure for anybody who is part of the disability community or has been involved in some way, shape, or form, has seen that everyone that has a disability lives thrives in society in some way, shape, or form, regardless of the support they have. Just because you need that extra support doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing things independently. Using self-advocacy skills leads to increased independence, controls, and opportunities in your own life. So step one is to learn about self-advocacy. Isaac, take it away.
Self-advocacy means speaking up for yourself and for what is important to you and for you. Knowing that your opinions about the decisions made about your life are valid. Exercising your rights to make choices and decisions about your life. Self-advocacy is a way to ask for what you need in a direct and respectful manner, while respecting the needs of others. Advocacy is a skill that you learn over time and with practice. And now we have a little video that we will share to kind of capitalize on that.
Okay, we got it. I have it up. You just switch over. All right.
Self-advocacy means to speak out.
We don't see the video, Audrey.
Self-advocacy.
Dang it. Wait, really?
It's just your desktop. We hear the audio, but we don't see the video. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Whew. This technology might actually be the death of me. All right. Back to it. Better?
Self-advocacy means to speak out.
Self-advocacy is about speaking up for your rights, no matter what the issue or the concern is.
To speak for oneself and speak for others.
Standing up for your rights and not relying on staff or your support staff to make decisions for you.
Self-advocacy is people with disabilities.
Advocating for yourself or speaking out to make a difference.
For your rights and for rights for other individuals.
The ability to be independent, live your life to its fullest extent.
To be kind and nice and speak up for yourself.
Self-advocacy means freedom and a lot of it.
We took issues like the will work, will pay.
I think of self-advocacy as a skill.
Be dependable, be on your own, speak up for yourself.
Be persistent in what you want.
When you got control of your life, of your everyday affairs.
It means given the ability to have choices in my life, and it can come in different ways.
Self-advocacy is that first time that you vote and your parents didn't vote for that person.
Self-advocates need to speak up because they need to have their voices heard. They have the, they have the same rights and opportunities as others.
Helping other people talk, other people who cannot talk.
Self-advocacy is not just about information sharing, it's about being in the community.
I worked really hard in the community because of my unique disability to get the word out that people like us should be in the community.
Self-advocacy means that I'm myself. I have my own voice. I speak up for myself.
Self-advocacy means you advocate for yourself. You talk to people.
Being able to know what you want and then being able to go for it and having somebody else that believed in it, that's able to help you.
Speaking up for yourself, but also taking responsibility for your things.
It's taking the risk of being yourself and having your own identity.
Something told me since I was little that I have a voice, I have rights, I don't need to be picked on, and every time that happened, I've always stood up for myself.
To get younger people involved in self-advocacy is just about guiding them and being like a peer mentor to them.
Because they need to learn how to participate.
When you're a little kid, we couldn't speak up, and then I started to speak up, and that's what self-advocacy is. Learning to speak up for what I wanted.
Without young people, what we built will not continue.
I'm still young too, so I understand a lot of the things, but I love helping people to understand self-advocacy.
We should know how to stand up for our own rights and our needs and wants.
I'm gonna fight for those that are like me, or it don't matter, it's just, I just don't like people taking advantage of.
Because like me, I don't put up with nothing. If I see someone being mistreated or abused or whatever, I resolve it because I know how I am. This is always dear to my heart.
It's really important that we speak up and tell people what is wrong in this world, and so that we can make it better and we can make a change.
They want to get the word out that they want something out of life.
It's our responsibility to speak up, to say, okay, we understand that the government has to make a lot of budget cuts, but this is no place to cut.
We need a voice. We need to get people to listen to what we want.
As much as everybody tries to help people with various kinds of disabilities, we're the ones who really know what we need.
For years, the voices of people with intellectual disability were never heard. Decisions were made for them.
If it doesn't come from us, it comes from people who don't have an intellectual disability and they don't actually have the experience to talk about it.
The professionals need to listen to us more because we know what we want and need. They don't know as well as we do what we want and need.
Other people will decide what you will do. If you are not at the table, you don't know what those people are gonna decide.
A part of being a self-advocate is to get out there and start networking.
And if you don't know how to do that,
you should go and ask a self-advocate person that knows how to do it, and they'll help you.
People with disabilities need to be accepted into this, what they call real world.
There's tons of barriers out there, but attitudinal barriers are the biggest, I think.
People should be given an opportunity. People should be given love. Give them a chance. Because everyone has a risk in life.
The biggest thing is being included in the community with society, and it's inclusion within college, school.
We came out here to learn from y'all anyway, and that's what we want people to understand. Well, we need help and all that from y'all. That's what we want.
I like to be out, helping people, and to teach people.
I learned to speak up and not be ashamed of who I am.
Just like the civil rights movement before us, we try to do things to help people speak out for what they want and do what they believe in.
Self-advocacy, it has to come from the heart. If you believe in something, you will work harder.
And loving people for people.
We just wanted to let everybody know just because you have a disability doesn't mean you're less than, or you don't know, or you're not committed to something.
Yeah, I'm a talk a little bit different. I'm about different. But when it's all said and done, I am just as human as anyone else.
We all need to work together, and we can't separate ourselves anymore.
All right, let me bring the PowerPoint back up real quick. Sorry, this is taking a moment. Okay, so how to advocate for yourself. Know your rights as a human being, your legal rights. Know your strengths and skills. Take time to practice. And when I say take time to practice, that really means that in your everyday life, if you are, let's just say you are a young person who wants to have pizza for dinner instead of meatloaf, then you can advocate that with your parents. Or if you are somebody who's a little bit older, then maybe you need to advocate to your boss why you need that pay raise, or why you need to take half the day off. And your excuse is, oh, it's because it's Friday and I want to go home. Take initiative. Hey, I'm not wrong, okay? Like, I don't know who's laughing behind those screens, but I'm not wrong. Take initiative, meaning take the first step. Be direct and specific about what you need or want. People are not going to be able to guess what you need or want. You have to be able to do that for yourself. Be patient and speak respectfully. Be open to what others share. You'd be surprised what other ideas that other people come up with. Be prepared to agree to disagree. And if needed, seek support from somebody that you trust. Okay. Oopsie, sorry. Now for your entertainment. Isaac and I are going to role play a scenario where a young person needs to use self-advocacy skills. And then we're going to ask you questions afterwards. So we're going to have a twofer. Well, it's going to be the same situation, which is somebody at work is advocating for an accommodation that they need. And one is going to be how you probably shouldn't self-advocate. And the other is going to be how you should self-advocate. So in this case, we're going to do the bad first because that we're good. And Isaac's going to be the employee asking for the accommodation, and I get to be the boss that gets to tell him no. So, you ready, Isaac?
I am. Audra, I was told that I was going to get an accommodation and I still haven't received it. What's going on?
Hang on, I blinked. I said it. Okay, I wasn't prepared for that, Isaac. So, Okay. Okay. I am not aware of what accommodation we're talking about. Did you submit it with the right department?
Yes, I've told everyone from the application to the interview, and there's still nothing. What's going on?
Well, did you contact that department to ask for an update? 'Cause I am your boss, but I am not quite HR.
No, but you said everything would be fine and figure it out. So I'm coming to you first.
Okay, I can reach out to HR and see where we are with it, and then I'll let you know. But in the future, I would go to HR first because they are the ones that deal directly with accommodations.
Well, until then, I won't be working.
I honestly have no idea what to say to that, Isaac. You have fun with that. That's probably what I would say. So what oh my gosh, what did Isaac do wrong? Like what is something that he should have probably done and didn't do? Wow, don't jump in all at once, everyone.
People can feel free to chime in. You can unmute your microphones if you want.
Yeah, unmute, raise your hands, type in the chat. It's fine.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Alton Yazi. Isaac, one thing that he did wrong that I noticed was a little demanding about his company.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't want to be confrontational. You know, being firm and being confrontational are two different things. And, you know, being confrontational is going to result in less likely that an employer is going to be willing to work with you. And, you know, there could be some other HR violations in there too. So you want to be careful with that.
Anyone else?
Here, in the chat. It would be helpful to lead with your questions. How do I ask for accommodations? Yeah, that, you know, being professional and asking in a nicer way could definitely go further with, you know, how to ask instead of, again, demanding and being angry and confrontational.
And we're going to do the proper way to do it right now, actually. So are you ready to be nice to me, Isaac?
No.
All right.
Another one too that I noticed at the end. He
I'm
gave
sorry?
them ultimatum.
And a lot of that, you know, I still think even, you know, the ultimatum is probably, you know, the way I did it is probably not the right way to do it, but it is, you know, I'm not working until I get accommodations is, you know, there's some legal stuff to that. And I don't know, I am not a legal expert, but you probably can do it to some extent. But again, I would seek a employment lawyer for that one and not do that.
Are you ready to do it the proper way?
Yep.
Okay, and action.
Hi, Audra. I was wondering if you knew when my accommodations were going to come in. I requested some stuff from HR and the higher ups, and I still haven't received anything.
Yes, so I haven't received anything from HR yet. When did you submit these requests?
I've been doing them all throughout the onboarding process. I did it I asked during the interview, and then when I was given the job offer, I requested it with the trainer or the person on site. So that was probably about a week ago.
Okay, so since I haven't heard back, I will go ahead and reach out to them. However, I would also encourage you to reach out to HR just to give them a little bit of a push, and then we can figure out the next steps from there.
Okay. And then with that, I feel like I can't be. I'm having trouble working. Is there a way for me to, I guess, not work until I get those accommodations up, because I feel like I'm not doing a thorough enough job and missing things.
I understand. And before I answer that question, I will ask, is there any part of your job responsibility that you feel you can do?
Probably responding. The most simple one would probably be responding to emails. I think some of the more technical and detailed things are a little hard for me right now.
So okay. So I'll say this. So if you could still continue to respond to emails and such as you can do, and then we'll work on getting this done before the end of the week at the most. And then and if it continues to be an issue, then we can come back and readdress our options going forward.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Right. Yay, that was so much better than the other one. All you have to do is be nice to me. All right, so what did Isaac do this time that was the proper way to advocate for himself? You can use the chat or unmute or raise your hand.
He was more polite.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
understanding, and both sides were willing to collaborate to resolve the issue at hand.
Yes, 100%. And I'm also reading, also, if there's a delay in me talking, it's because I use the captions. So sometimes it takes a minute for me to process what's being said. But in the chat, we see very professional, mentioning dates when it was submitted, and more conversational, giving compromise about job duties he was able to do without accommodations, which is amazing, and then ask specific questions, which is also great. So do you think scenario number 1 or scenario number 2 was the best way for Isaac to advocate for himself? 2?
I always use the phrase "kill them with kindness." I think that there's always room for kindness, even if you aren't getting your way in a lot of this. Because again, if you seem off, you're very kind of mad and angry and resentful, people are going to be less inclined to help you. And part of that is just people don't want to be on the receiving end of that anger. It's, being angry is understandable, but you really do have to, in any scenario when you're advocating for yourselves, always be kind and polite, regardless of the outcome sometimes, because you can always, try again with different approaches.
We have a question. What would you recommend if they didn't respond to any needs after, say, 2 follow-ups? Ooh, Isaac, that's a good question.
So again, it depends on how big your organization or your employer is. But my suggestion would be to again seek legal advice. A lot of times, there are things that you can be done that will allow you to get through it. Contacting HR is a first step, but maybe contacting someone a little higher up at HR. Maybe if the your boss isn't as receptive, go above your bosses, go to their supervisor, and just kind of escalate slowly. Again, escalating it to the higher ups as you go. And then if you have any connections within the organization or people outside, bring them in. Just get a support. Also document everything and what's happening, why the reasoning is, because that will go a long way.
Yes, 100%. And I'm actually glad that we did have a couple people in the chat saying, document, keep copies, keep your emails, screenshot, put together a folder, and that will help you a lot in the long run. So thank you, Isaac, for your demonstration. Are there recommended legal advice places?
Go ahead.
I was going to say Disability Rights Arizona.
Yep.
Is going to be one of your biggest ones.
Yeah, that would be my first go-to. If depending on where you're working, if you're unionized, go to your union representative. They'll be able to point you into a direction. If you have specific questions, contact people that who might have experience in some of that. Use your network to your advantage too. But Disability Rights Arizona is definitely going to be a big person or a big organization and big entity that I would suggest first, and then your union rep.
100%. So self-advocacy. Oh, I'm just kidding. Oh, you're welcome. Self-advocacy skills are important because they can lead to problem solving in your own life. When you use them, you learn more about resources, supports, and barriers before you make choices and decisions. Using these skills can help you gain support for the decisions you make about your life. And they help you share with others what you don't, or where you want or don't not. Oh my gosh. It is way too Saturday for my brain, that's for sure. Okay. They help you share with others what you want or don't want, or need or don't. Self-advocates have rights. Oh, I'm sorry, Isaac. I'm stealing your thunder. Please go.
No worries. People who have disabilities have the right to make mistakes as they go through life, just like everyone else. Dignity of risk. What you learn and what you do about it is what really matters. All the boxes are covering good. So, do people who care about you? Do the people who care about us sometimes try to protect us from making mistakes or failing?
What do you guys think? Do people who care about us sometimes try to protect us from making mistakes or failing?
I would think yes. I think a lot of times, as parents and as people who care about their youth with disabilities, they want to protect them. They want to make sure that they kind of take them out a bit of society and all the kind of bad stuff that can happen. And that's it comes from a good place, but sometimes that's more harmful than letting the young person make a mistake and failing, because the hope is that failing and making mistakes, you're going to learn from that. Everyone learns from mistakes. Everyone, and hopefully it's a positive learning experience. I know for me, when I first entered college, I procrastinated a little too much, and I failed my first semester, my first class, and I was like, oh, that's not great. But I was given that opportunity. If my parents were more, overprotective, they would have probably not let me fail, and I would have never really learned that, essentially my actions have consequences, both positive and negative. So I learned from that mistake, and would later go on and graduate with honors in college. So I think it's important that letting people make mistakes as they grow is a really strong life lesson.
100%. And Adrian mentioned in the chat, it builds character as an individual who has a disability.
Absolutely.
So, part 2, practicing your self-advocacy skills. So this is where we would really love audience participation. And by the way, somebody said congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so everybody in the chat, well, not everybody, as many people as possible, list settings or situations where you might need to advocate for yourself or times you already have. So we've already mentioned advocating for accommodations at work, which you can definitely mention if that's something you've experienced for yourself. But can in the chat or unmute or whatever, can you guys mention some other situations or settings where you might need to advocate for yourself or times where you've already had to advocate for yourself? I've already advocated for myself when I started in college during classes. That's awesome. Anyone else?
What about advocacy at the doctor's office?
Yeah, that's a huge one. I think not a lot of youth, not even, not a lot of young people as with who don't have disabilities know how to really articulate their issues. So as a person with a disability who may have some more healthcare challenges, it's even that much more important to be able to advocate for yourself in a healthcare setting.
Yeah, I've noticed that doctors aren't really that familiar with my type of disability.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm going to a specialist that's specializing in spinal cord injuries, I could tell a doctor that I have, you know, something going on, and I could just see the blank look on their face where they don't understand what that means because they don't work with people with disabilities that often.
Right. Which is kind of ironic, being a doctor should, is helping people, with everything. So it's interesting. But I think, sometimes I think people also over expect a doctor to know, especially like a general practice doctor. Um, I will say as someone who's worked in healthcare and has close ties within the healthcare industry, that, a general doctor is being asked to know everything. And that's a lot. I mean, disability and diseases and such. So I think having the expectation that you need to be, you should have as much information about your disability and how it affects you to be then able to articulate that to your doctor. That's a self-advocating, but then, explaining to your doctor what's going on, and then, being as precise and consistent with that, it helps the doctor to make a better prognosis and plan of attack for you. But when you go to your specialist, they're that's all they do. It's going to be specifically your eyes, specifically spinal cord injury, specifically immunocompromised disability. So I'm not trying to play. I try not to play devil's advocate here, but I also know how hard it is for doctors when everyone expects them to know everything.
Yeah, most of the time I take it as a teaching moment.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna kind of like divert our attention to the chat. So we've got school, family, and stores, which I had to deal with that a lot during COVID because I'm deaf and I read lips, and with everyone masking, that was a very tough time for me. Work and leaving toxic work environment. And then I've tried to advocate for myself at work. Ironically, I'm on a self-advocacy team, and it's been an epic fail. People act like they don't understand. I would love to hear more of your input on that one, because that's a very interesting concept. But people have different ways to advocate for yourself. So we've got work, school, stores, doctor's offices, family, and there's a lot of different scenarios where you have to advocate for yourself. And I have, and Oh my gosh. So I have a 7-year-old daughter. I had her when I was pretty young. And she also has disabilities. She has deafness. She wears cochlear implants. And she signs, and she also has ADHD. So that's meanwhile I'm deaf. I wear a cochlear implant, and I have ADD. That's not a great combination when you're trying to listen to people, but your attention span is that of a goldfish. So, um, but many times I've had to also advocate for Aurora, my daughter, but I also try to encourage her to advocate for herself in scenarios that are appropriate, um, mainly at home. So that's just my example. So we are going to choose one of the scenarios you shared and role play a young person using self-advocacy skills in that situation. So how about instead of Isaac and I choosing, because already doing all the talking, why don't we try to come up with a consensus on what you would like to see Isaac and I debate about as far as self-advocacy skills go? You've already seen he's very quick-witted and he's very sarcastic and he can be mean when he wants to be.
Me? Mean? No. Someone said school or doctor. Okay.
Anyone else? Going all the way straight. Hang on, I don't know what just happened.
Strangers. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, Rachel? What do you mean by strangers?
Acting up. Give me a second. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I think Microsoft Word is just giving me a couple middle fingers right now. All right. Speaking to someone in person, to standing in line at a public place, or going, yeah, I mean, these are all great scenarios of self-advocacy, but what could be most applicable to what we're talking about today? Can you see the screen, Isaac?
Mm-hmm.
You want to do the doctor's office?
I'm good with that if that's something that people want. And we probably have a little time that we probably could do both, but let's go ahead and do the doctor one first. Are we just doing the good, right? Audra, are we just doing the good version?
Yes, we're just doing the good version, obviously. Okay. I don't want you yelling at me anymore.
Okay, I'm ready whenever you are.
I love that the interpreter is trying not to laugh while he's listening to us argue like this. Sorry. Okay, how about I think we should just pick one. Let's just do the doctor. Do you want to be the doctor or the patient?
Let's switch. So I'll be the doctor and you be the patient.
First, who would say that, Mr. Nurse? Identify what you want. Okay, Sydney said, identify what you want and need from your appointment and communicate with your physician. Perfect. That's what we're going to do.
Hey.
All right. So we're in the doctor's office. We're talking. We're doing our thing. Blah, 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 blah. Dr. Zwinger.
Yes, ma'am.
I need a doctor's note from you, um, because we've been in here talking about this. We've been in here talking about this health issue that I've been having, and I'm starting to feel that. And I told you I'm starting to feel that effect at work and at school. I need a doctor's note from you to give to my to give to the school and my boss, explaining that I've been having some health issues, and that's why I have been struggling to keep up in both work and in school.
Okay, what would you like me to say in it to kind of help alleviate some of the pressures that you are facing at work and school?
So, basically in your statement, I would like you to write that you've been seeing me for however much time you have, concerning these issues, and you don't have to get super specific because I really feel like it's not their business about exactly that you've been seeing me about, but that it, and also stating that because of those issues that, or because of what you've been seeing me about, that I have been I have not been in a good place to be at 100%, essentially, in both of those situations, and that I need to be able to rediscuss accommodations within the workplace because they're going to want documentation as to why I'm changing this all of a sudden.
Okay, with relationships to your accommodations, is there anything that I need to justify in this to them about what your needs are?
I would say having the ability to um, take a break. I'm given like 2 15-minute breaks at work, but having the freedom basically to take that 30 minutes I get, and break it up as needed versus what the company dictates would
Okay.
probably be the most helpful.
Okay, anything else?
No, no, I think that's my main concern.
Okay, well, I will have someone in the front print out my note. It'll probably I'll need a couple of minutes, so if you can stay after we're done here and just in the front, I'll have one of them print it out for you, and or we can email it and we'll get that through. But if there are more things that come up later, just please call the office and we'll readjust and get you the accommodations for your school and work.
Awesome. Thank you, doctor.
You're welcome.
And finish. So, so how did I use self-advocacy skills while talking to Dr. Swinger? And thank you for the applause. I don't know if you can see it, Isaac, but we have some applause emojis going on around. Years of theater has paid off. So, but how did I use self-advocacy skills with Isaac? You told the doctor what you needed and advocated for yourself. Yep. You stayed calm and made sure that your needs were stated properly. That's very important. Yes. And then on the other hand, what did Isaac do that contributed positively to the situation? He listened to your problems and helped too. Yep. Specific words what you needed without oversharing unnecessary personal information. Yep. You've got a pretty good group of people here. I don't know if you remember this, Isaac, but a few chats above was someone talking about how they work on a self-advocacy team. It hasn't been going well, and I asked about it. and the person said that they were ready to share if
Yeah.
you're still there. We would still love to hear what you have to say. Just waiting for them to unmute.
Can the host unmute the young individual? I'm wondering if they're having problems unmuting themselves.
I think they are. She can't take her mute off. Oh, there you go. Yay.
Okay, so I've been on a self-advocacy team at my job since 20, not sure. It's been about 3, almost 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when we started, long story short, I was on the team prior. So I'm pretty familiar with how the things worked back then. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of an NPA. They are funded through Source America and Ability One.
Okay.
So we have to have an active advocacy team.
Okay.
When I started, everything was good. We were allowed to go out in the community. We did a couple of things, and then all of a sudden, everything came to a halt. So there were questions, well, what happened? Why can't we do fundraising anymore? Why can't we do, just the things that we normally did? And it was just explained that the higher ups in the company said we can no longer do that. So literally for like 2 years, we were just sitting still, not doing anything. We're supposed to vote every 2 years as if, we're out in the community voting like we're voting for president. So we have president, vice president, secretary, media, and treasurer. When I asked about voting, it was like, okay, you're going to be able to vote in January. So I said, okay, no problem. Just, relax. January came and the coordinator just completely like didn't bring it up. So during one of our monthly meetings, I asked about the voting, and I just stated, hey, we were told that we would be able to vote in January. Now, the coordinator has favorites. This is work. You're not supposed to do that. And she didn't want him to be dropped from his position because she had just put him in position as president. And when I brought up the issue, I could tell that she was just irritated that I even said anything. So it was, well, we'll just discuss this, at another time, we'll have a separate meeting, cutting the team out. So I'm like, that's odd. We're supposed to have autonomy and we're supposed to vote as a team. So they scheduled a meeting for us to meet separately. I did express I wanted to be, the president, but of course I wanted the team to vote. When she did the meeting, it was like a intervention. And everyone was telling me how I should not focus on the past. Meanwhile, she just told us that we were going to vote. So I'm like, okay, what did I miss? I'm just like confused because not just one person, but 2 people told us we were going to vote. And she told me and told the guy that she had acting as president that basically pretty much neither one of us fit that role. Now, in order to be in these positions, you don't have to have any background. You don't have to have any special skills. It's just being placed in a role. And she is supposed to teach us as a coordinator how we're supposed to fill that role. So because he had been in that position for almost 4 years, she had no other choice but to allow me to be president. The very first email that I got from her was pretty much insinuating, I don't think this is for you, so maybe you should drop down. I just ignored it and I continued on, with my position. Once I got into the position, when I say she has done everything to try to get me out of this position, including putting a stipulation in to where, because I'm part-time, putting a stipulation in there so if I work part-time, I won't be able to be president. Then she said, well, we're going to just split the role between you and the vice president, and we'll just go from there. So I'm like, nobody else was treated like this, so I'm not understanding what's going on here. So I tried to talk to her about it and it just went nowhere. So I ended up having to reach out to human resources because she sent me a letter, an email telling me how I can't blame her for my failed vision. And it was just a weird letter. So I reached out to human resources and I told them, I said, hey, there's some things going on that are in complete violation of our policies. So they said that we should do some communication building because there's a communication barrier between me and her. And the last meeting that we had, human resources told me that they were going to represent her and somebody else was supposed to represent me. Human resources is not supposed to represent anybody. They're supposed to sit back and figure out how they can make things better in that situation. And it just, no matter what I say, no matter what emails I show, where she is literally unhinged in the email, it doesn't matter. So that's my situation.
Can I ask, are you in the state of Arizona?
I am.
Okay. So I would reach out to the Disability Rights of Arizona. That's going to be your first step. And then are you unionized?
No.
Okay. So this sounds like, a lot of internal, and I think this is going to be a case by case scenario. And I don't know that I have more, you've done a really good job with yourself, self-advocating and really, trying to get things in the right place. I don't know that I have any more advice other than to talk to Disability Rights Arizona to see what they can provide, if they have anything that they can provide. And then maybe the next thing might be to find an employment lawyer who might be able to help with that. Some of this, I know these are going to be caught. The Disability Rights Arizona doesn't usually charge, but an employment lawyer, that might be a little expensive. I think you're doing everything right. I think this is a scenario where the company's not listening and is kind of, trying to, silence you a little bit. But the other thing is, if does the coordinator have a boss, and have you had conversations with her supervisor?
I reached out to her and
Okay.
talked to her about the things that were going on. I also asked questions, just basically about the voting and about my position and the coordinator's position. And she confirmed what it was that I already know. I've been at my job for over 9 years.
Okay.
For the coordinator, and I asked if she would speak with the team, just to clear out the air and have some questions answered. And she said yes. During the time that we've been going back and forth through human resources, the supervisor won't meet with us anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, when I say there's stuff that's going on there, and it's a shame because it's a self-advocacy team, so
right.
it's separate from work, but somehow they've added, it just combined everything. So now it's a hostile work environment. I can't even go to the higher up at work and talk to him because he's so snappy with me, because she sat and had a conversation with him about me that I wasn't even present to even defend myself.
Oh, geez. Yeah, this is a little bit of what I've personally dealt with and or have information to help you with. So again, I would reach out to Disability Rights Arizona and see if they can help you, because I think this might be a thing where you have to take some legal action, and or I know this sounds like a job that you're passionate about, but this specific organization may not be the right place for you to work if they're not getting a.
Right. I'm going back to school for psychology, so
That might be a blessing in disguise, honestly. I mean, I hate to say that, but there's just some places that they talk they talk about self-advocacy, but they don't walk the walk. So this might be.
this company, I can tell you that when I first started and being the president, I send out emails Monday through Wednesday. And one of my emails was just explaining how I felt when I walked in the door to this company back in 2016 and how much of a change that it made for me because I have an invisible disability. So walking into a room, it's automatically assumed that there's nothing wrong with me you know and they were very accommodating. I needed a 15-minute accommodation to just step away from my desk when I needed to. I mean, very, very welcoming, very family orientated. And I've noticed since COVID, all of that has just left. And I mean, it's like breathtaking because this job was like, this was a place to be if you are a person with a disability, and it's no longer being that place. It's really heartbreaking to see the change.
That's really unfortunate. Just for time, I think we do have to move on. But if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and we might be able to help get you connected to disability rights and see if there's anything else on our end that we might be able to help you with.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
Sharing. And just so you know, my mom works in HR, and if she were having this conversation with you, she would tell you the same thing Isaac just told you. So definitely consider those steps for yourself. But we're talking about, it's actually a really good segue into engaging in self-advocacy, because we're sitting here talking about this woman and advocating for herself at work. So we're going to go ahead and move forward on talking about that. So, general consensus for the room: would you guys consider yourselves an advocate? Because I definitely consider myself an advocate, not only for myself but for other people, because I've always had to be. Isaac, you can chime in. You consider yourself an advocate?
I definitely consider myself an advocate on a variety of levels. I think, a disability advocate is one, a healthcare advocate is another. Education is probably a third.
Yes, well, for sure. And the next question: when have you needed to advocate for yourself? I feel like a lot of people have already expressed this, so I'm not really going to delve too much into this. But we're going to get into the resources and groups that can help you practice your self-advocacy skills or get more involved in your community. And I also know that after we're done with our presentation, then self-advocacy organizations and groups will also be able to do their spiel. So this is probably also a really good transition into that. So we're just going to mention a few that we know of, but we don't know what we don't know until somebody says. So first off, we have Arizona Achieve, which is the ARC, Across Disabilities statewide coalition that supports self-advocacy for individuals with disabilities. From peer mentorship to leadership training, Arizona Achieve guides its members to find their voices, tell their stories, and advocate for change. The website also has a list of other self-advocacy groups. And of course, we have the Southwest Institute for Families and Children, which, hi everybody, that's what we're here for right now. They also have a list of self-advocacy groups, and you can reach out to George, our lovely host for today. The Arizona Developmental Disabilities Planning Council also has something, the Autism Society of Arizona, People First of Arizona, which is a self-advocacy and civil rights group run by and for people with disabilities that offers experience through self-advocacy. a community-based group that is not connected with any provider agency. And then, of course, we have contact information here. If any of you want this information, we can definitely make sure it gets to you. And then here comes our spiel. Are you ready for this, Isaac?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to do this or you want me to do this?
However, I can do it. You can do it. I'm ready. So Arizona Diversibility Incorporated, we have two Arizona Youth Leadership Forums coming up this summer. This again is a leadership and engagement conference that is focused on self-discovery, leadership development, effective and self-advocacy and empowerment. So the first one we have is going to be June 9th through the 12th in Phoenix, and it's going to be at Gateway Community College. That is going to be a day program only, and it is from 9 to 4, with the exception on Thursday, we'll go until 7 because we will be at Ability 360's Sports and Fitness Center, having some time in their gym, their pool, just kind of having a fun little night for people to get active and be, have fun. The next one is June 23rd to the 27th in Flagstaff. We're going to be at we're going to be at Northern NAU. Northern Arizona University. And this is an overnight program. And so, we'll start at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. on Monday, and it'll go until about 4, just kind of for the content of our program. But then in the evenings, we'll have different activities and things that we'll be doing. So if you are between the ages of 14 and 22, please apply. The QR code is up front, and then if anyone has any questions about this programming, Audra will take them while I try to upload our flyer into the chat for people to also have.
Well, and the thing about this program is, and this is not specifically mentioned in here, but it is youth run and youth led. So anybody who is facilitating the program are also youth and young adults who have disabilities, who have gone through our programs and have had or are having various life experiences. And Isaac and I are actually graduates of the program. I attended in 2014, which was a long, long time ago. And I was 16 years old at the time. And Isaac attended in 2017, and he was, I think, 17 or 18. So we have a lot of experience, and also to kind of break down a little bit more about what we go over. We talk about self-determination and self-advocacy. We do goal setting. We introduce them to different resources in the community. We talk about disability history and culture. We integrate a lot of activities based off of everything that I just mentioned. And we also just like to have fun. We have, we try to make it as fun and educational and entertaining as possible. But this is something that has stuck with people for several years, and a lot of people come back to facilitate our programs or even to just participate in some way, shape, or form. So the QR code here, as Isaac already mentioned, goes to our website. Yeah, and then we have the website down here. We have lots of other programs, which I can get into at another time. But this year, we're recruiting for this, and we are pushing our application deadlines are tomorrow, but we're pushing it into next week to give everybody a chance to be able to apply or ask questions if needed. And also, Isaac is putting the resources in the chat from a couple slides ago, so you guys can definitely take from that as well. And while he's doing that, we also, oh my gosh, we have a really good partnerships with the Centers for Independent Living in Arizona, which offer a plethora of resources that is way more than just independent living. I'm not even going to get into the list because there's so many. And of course, we have Ability 360, which is located in Phoenix. Assist to Independence, which is located in Tuba City. Direct, which is located in Tucson. New Horizons, which is located in Prescott. And then Smile, where services maximizing independent living and empowerment, which is located in Yuma. If you would like to contact us, please reach out. We have here the organization, our PO box, our QR code, which leads you to the website, our actual website, and then the email where you can reach out to me and Isaac, because we are pretty cool. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you guys so much for your time and your participation. And I'll pass it back over to George.